Hi, and welcome back to my channel where it's out with the fake and in with the true. If you watch any news today, then you probably already heard that Ron DeSantis has done what, hey, they should all be doing. And that is giving these liberals a taste of their own medicine. I actually just think it's hilarious. He flew these illegal aliens over to Martha's Vineyard. I mean, come on now. It's hilarious. I love it. I love how he's going to make them walk the talk. They want equity. Here it is. They want diversity. Here you go. Here's more of it. Here is what you need. Here is what you cry about. Crying racism all the time. Let me give you what you need. Tucker Carlson's monologue, his opening monologue, was so good that I just had to share it with y'all. Maybe you've seen it. If you have, watch it again. And if you haven't shared it, share it with someone. Guys, it's so spot on.
Only a happy story for once. Outbursts of irrepressible joy erupted throughout the exclusive island community of Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts last night. For hundreds of years, Martha's Vineyard had suffered from the soul-crushing effects of its own whiteness. Island residents understood there was only one cure. They badly needed diversity. In fact, they often said so. But despite their very best efforts over many years, diversity never came to Martha's Vineyard. It was tragic. Imagine an 18th century British frigate adrift on the high seas with no limes. Sailors slowly going mad, convulsing, dying excruciating deaths from scurvy. That was Martha's Vineyard. Except it wasn't lime juice they lacked. They had plenty of that because you can't make a gin and tonic without it. What Martha's Vineyard lacked was diversity, which is to say strength. Martha's Vineyard was a very weak place. As of yesterday morning, that island was 89% white, monochromatic, and utterly homogenous. Nearly everybody there was a rich Democrat. 80% voted for Joe Biden. The median home price was over $1 million. And then, in a single blessed moment, everything changed. Relief arrived from an unlikely source. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, having made his own state a paradise, decided to help other states desperately in need. So yesterday, DeSantis sent 50 illegal aliens, most of them from Venezuela, to the Martha's Vineyard airport. They traveled from San Antonio to the Florida Panhandle and finally to their new home on Martha's Vineyard. CBS Boston reports that after landing, the group wandered about 3.5 miles from the airport into town, thereby instantly improving it. You can imagine the unrestrained jubilation on Martha's Vineyard tonight. Long-suffering islanders finally rescued from their own oppressive whiteness. In fact, let's go there now to check in on the celebrations. Well, that's not expected. Obviously, there's been a mistake. No, our producers are telling us there are no technical problems. That is, in fact, a live shot from Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts, right now. But where were the weeping, joyful crowds? Where was the champagne and the ticker tape? We expected Times Square on VJ Day. What we got was a cemetery at midnight. What? But maybe it's not so confusing. Maybe things aren't as they seem. Our first clue is Barack Obama. Barack Obama is a part-time resident of Martha's Vineyard. Obama is also, of course, as you know, the country's greatest proponent of diversity. For years, Obama earnestly told us that immigrants were better than Americans. They were holy. They make our country strong.
America is and always has been a nation of immigrants. Throughout our history, immigrants have come to our shores in wave after wave from every corner of the globe. Every one of us, unless we're Native American, has an ancestor who was born somewhere else. That's what makes America special. That's what makes us strong. The basic idea of welcoming immigrants to our shores is central to our way of life. It is in our DNA.
So that was basically the whole presidency right there for 8 years, Obama hectoring us about diversity. But he didn't just talk about it. He spent his 2 years in office making certain that places like Des Moines, Iowa, and Portland, Maine became much less white than they previously had been, because, as he so often told us, whiteness is bad. It's a disease. So we recall being a little confused when we read that Barack Obama had spent $12 million to buy an 8-bathroom oceanfront property on Martha's Vineyard, which is one of the whitest places on earth. Really, Martha's Vineyard? Why not Baltimore? Or Gary, Indiana? Is there really no real estate left in Detroit for the Obama family compound? There's got to be. What's going on here? We didn't know. And then in 2019, Michelle Obama explained it to us. Listen to this.
We grew up in the period, as I write, called white flight. Yeah. That is families like ours, upstanding families like ours, who were doing everything we were supposed to do and better. As we moved in, white folks moved out because they were afraid of what our families represented. And I always stop there when I talk about this out in the world because, I want to remind white folks that y'all were running from us, and you're still running because we're no different than the immigrant families that are moving in, the families in Pilsen, the families that are coming from other places to try to do better. And so, yeah, I feel a sense of injustice.
So there she was, reminding white folks who badly needed reminding that the Obamas are, quote, no different from the immigrant families moving in because white people hate them too. They're still running, as she just said. So that explained it to us. The Obamas were, in fact, despised immigrants. So when they moved to a $12 million seaside compound on Martha's Vineyard, the point is not to live in luxury with other rich people. No, obviously, the point is to diversify Martha's Vineyard, to strike a blow for justice. That made sense to us, and we felt better. But then last night happened, and we started to rethink our assumptions about the Obamas, about a lot of things. Because a plane load of highly diverse immigrants arrived on Martha's Vineyard to join the Obamas. But the Obamas didn't welcome them. There was not a word from Barack or Michelle Obama. Barack wasn't waiting at the airport to greet the diversifiers with flowers. He didn't issue a statement of congratulations. He didn't invite a single Venezuelan to his home. How come? Could it be that Barack Obama isn't really, actually, in real life, in favor of diversity at all? Could it be that Barack Obama strongly prefers blonde SoulCycle moms in Lululemon to sweaty third-world campesinos in dirty work pants? Could it be? We can't say. But we can tell you that if you want to find out what people really think, go ahead and ignore what they say and watch how they live. And by that measure, the one that matters, Barack and Michelle Obama are every bit as bigoted as any board member at any restricted country club in the Deep South, assuming those still exist. Those people? They're not dating my daughter, I can tell you that. So in other words, we learned this week that Barack Obama really is a racist, and not in the way you've always assumed. Obama may hate white people, he certainly seems to, but he also demands to live around them, and only them. But the Obamas, to be fair, are not alone in this. His friends at the news networks in Washington, New York, and Los Angeles feel exactly the same way because they're exactly the same sort of people. CNN, for example, spent the day interviewing people connected in some way to Martha's Vineyard. Turns out that precisely none of them were excited about the plane load of Venezuelans. One of them, the state rep for the island, even blamed this show for the sudden blessed surge in diversity. Watch this.
Ron Desantis and Republicans might want to play political games with people's lives. I believe that's incredibly inhumane to be using women and children and families as a political pawn that you can then talk about on Tucker Carlson and pretend to be tough on immigration.
Wow. So see if you can follow the argument here. When penniless illegal aliens show up in Brownsville, Texas, one of the poorest cities in the United States, they are noble strivers. They're looking for a better life in this country, and we applaud them. Good luck in Brownsville, newly arrived immigrants. But when these very same people jump the moat and get a free flight to Martha's Vineyard, it's something else entirely. It is, as the state rep just told you, quote, playing political games with people's lives. Because it's dangerous. These immigrants could wander into a clam bake by accident, or worse, much worse. Earlier today, CNN anchor John Berman, who's got fired, by the way, this morning, John Berman interviewed noted filmmaker Ken Burns. Burns is famous, but sad, exactly the kind of middle-aged prestige hound who spends an awful lot of time looming around Martha's Vineyard looking for other famous people. Burns has a new film out that blames the United States, of all countries on earth, for the Holocaust. Now that the World War II generation has passed, Ken Burns can do that. There's no chance angry veterans will show up at his house and beat him with their canes for besmirching the memory of their closest friends who died in their early 20s fighting the Nazis. So Ken Burns can say whatever he wants, and many will believe him. So this morning, Burns played the role of Holocaust expert on CNN. And you know what Ken Burns has discovered? Ken Burns has discovered that Ron DeSantis sending illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard is pretty much exactly what Hitler did. Pretty much exactly. Watch this.
All of your documentaries are about history.
Yeah.
But all of them also make you think about where we are now. And we woke up to the news this morning that Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida sent 2 plane loads of migrants to Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, including kids and whatnot. And I'm not saying this is not a one-for-one. This is not a parallel here in any way. But it does address some of the same themes.
This is the coming straight out of the authoritarian playbook. This is what's so disturbing about DeSantis, is to use human beings, to weaponize human beings for a political purpose.
Ooh, you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? It's literally just like the Holocaust. Edgartown is Dachau. Oak Bluffs is Treblinka. The horrors, this is genocide. And it may be, but of course everything is relative. Martha's Vineyard may be a modern-day death camp, but compared to where illegal aliens usually go, it doesn't look that bad. Let's compare just for fun. On your screen, you will see images recently shot in America's border towns, which are now completely overrun under Joe Biden's immigration policy. You will notice, if you look carefully, chaos, violence, and filth. Okay, now we will take you to Martha's Vineyard. It's hellish, perhaps, but in a very different way. Families eating together on balconies overlooking the water, women doing their shopping in a quaint little town on bicycles, couples strolling along the boardwalk, sailboats. Doesn't look that bad. But that's exactly the problem, the media told us today. Martha's Vineyard may seem like one of the richest places on the planet, but somehow, there aren't enough social services there. It's bereft of social services, unlike Brownsville. As CBS News put it, quote, Martha's Vineyard is not an urban metropolitan area with a robust social services infrastructure. There's no Justice Department immigration court where the migrants can attend asylum hearings. There's no ICE field office where migrants can check in. Now. But you see, Martha's Vineyard is in, quote, an urban area with a, quote, robust social services infrastructure that other people get to deal with. And honestly, that's true. And it's kind of the whole idea. That's why DeSantis sent the illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard. People who make and advocate for certain policies should at some point have to live with those policies. But until now, they haven't had to. Bill Gates goes to Martha's Vineyard. So does Oprah, James Taylor, Spike Lee, Amy Schumer, and many more. And all of them, everyone is a much better person than you are because they support diversity. And now, for the first time, they're going to have some diversity. But it's just the beginning. Martha's Vineyard will need many, many more illegal aliens, tens of thousands more until the island is no longer majority white. Only then can it be a good place. Yet at the same time, the people who currently go to Martha's Vineyard are going to have to keep going there. They can't run away to somewhere else. That would be immoral. It would be, as Michelle Obama has told us, white flight. Now, massive demographic change will obviously make Martha's Vineyard a very different sort of place, but that's okay. Change is good. Anyone who fears change is a racist. We know that for sure because they've told us that for years. So where, you may ask, will all these new people live on such a small island? Simple. First, they can occupy Barack Obama's compound. There is no reason Obama needs that much space. Nobody needs that much space. You could probably fit a dozen immigrant families in Barack Obama's pool house and another 5 or 6 in the pantry. Keep going. Build a soccer field on the lawn, an outdoor goat barbecue by the back door, and bingo, you've got affordable housing. But it won't be enough. The Vineyard is going to need to construct shanty towns for all these new people. But we can't call them shanty towns. Obviously, that's demeaning. So we're going to call them townships, after Obama's favorite country. And then we're going to give them dignified names that suggest some kind of victory over adversity. Mandela, Cesar Chavezville, Kamala Apopolis. Now, each one will put a plaque with that famous Emma Lazarus poem, just so that everybody knows that these are not ordinary favelas. These are moral victories. As the signs say in Martha's Vineyard to this day, no human is illegal. Love is love. That's just science. But speaking of science, what will the environmental impact of all this new development be? That's a massive concern on Martha's Vineyard, and for good reason. But in this case, it's not a concern. None of these new townships will have running water or electricity. So by definition, they will be carbon neutral. It'll be part of the green revolution. Local law enforcement services won't be strained either because they won't be needed. None of these new arrivals will be bound by local laws. Why would they be? They ignored federal law to get here. There's no reason that they should have to observe the Vineyard's ordinances against, say, drunk driving or defecating in public. And just in case there are still vineyarders who think they have the right to protect what they own, think again, people. We refer you to the case of the fascist McCloskey family in St. Louis who once tried to defend what's theirs, and they got indicted for it. So that's not allowed. But we can't fully trust you. Somebody's going to have to go door to door to make sure that not one person on Martha's Vineyard keeps a gun at home, because self-defense can be tempting, even for Democratic voters. There's a lot of change for the Vineyard, and they're going to need to start work soon. The summer season begins on Memorial Day. So when Amy Schumer shows up to her place in June, she better be ready to find an illegal alien family using her bath towels. Yes, she will. And let's hope she doesn't complain about it. Because as Joe Biden often reminds us, illegal immigration is a gift.
Legal as well as undocumented are the reason why our society is functioning, the reason why our economy is growing. We don't talk about that. We stand up and act like it's a burden. It is not a burden. It's a gift.
Hardboard and mattresses in this same spot here outside the bus station. D'Agostino and other city leaders said their #1 priority is to avoid people on the streets. But since CBP has been so overwhelmed with the large numbers coming in, they have been forced to release as such. As more and more people have been on the streets in recent days, sanitation and cleanliness have become a concern out here. We're not seeing any porta potties or temporary toilets, showers, or sinks. And as you can imagine, the smell is beginning to add up.
Guys, there is just absolutely nothing that I could add to that monologue. It was just spot on. Tell me what y'all think about it in the comments. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see y'all real soon. Out with the fake and in with the truth.